Kamito Keisei is your average high school dummy who just so happens to have the power of the Demon King and the ultimate riz to pull in more chicks than Johnny has since. One day, while walking through a forest, he runs into a young redhead girl enjoying an open-air bath like a freak. He tries to excuse himself, but she calls him a pervert and summons her first spirit whip and starts swinging it around like a bronze player. Kamito tells her to calm down, but her dumb rampage ends up slashing a tree down and it falls over her. Kamito jumps in and manages to save her and gets rewarded from the gods with a soft, cushiony feeling on his hand. Seeing this, the girl slaps him unconscious and ties him up with her whip before dressing up in the uniform of the Aracia Spirit Academy. After Kamito wakes up, he teases her about her dressing sense before revealing that he came there on the instructions of their headmistress, Miss Greyworth. She checks up the letter of invitation he has and confirms that it's the real deal and asks him why would the headmistress call a guy to the academy as only girls are able to form contracts with and wield the power of the spirits. Kamito tells her to ask the old hag and says he didn't think that the school grounds would be so big, hinting that he got lost on his way to meet Greyworth. He then asks the girl about her name and what she was doing there bathing in the open. She replies that her name is Claire Rouge and she was purifying herself to form a contract with the spirit of the holy sword that defeated the Demon King, Solomon, which was supposedly sealed in a shrine here on the school grounds. They then make their way to the said shrine and Claire breaks the seal on the door and walks in. Kamito follows until they reach the pedestal holding the holy sword and Claire walks up to it and starts the ritual of forming a contract with the spirit. She pulls the sword out and it looks like she will succeed, but the spirit rejects her and instead starts fighting back. Kamito saves Claire once again by pushing her aside, but she stands back up and says that if the spirit doesn't make a contract with her peacefully, she will have to use force and enslave it. She takes her whip out and calls upon its spirit, Scarlet, which turns out to be a small fire cat. The cat fights the sword, but it turns out just as one would expect and the sword cuts the kitty down before heading straight for Claire's head. Kamito once again comes in clutch and jumps in between, but this time instead of pushing her away, he puts his hand forward towards the sword and surprises Claire by forming a spirit contract with the sword himself. He reveals that there has only ever been one man in history who was able to form spirit contracts, and that was the demon lord, Salomo, who brought the world to chaos and ruins. After having her spirit snatched by Kamito, being the ungrateful cat lady that she is, Claire says that Kamito is now her spirit because he stole hers. With that, she ties him up with her whip and brings her to the academy. She then calls him a pervert and wonders how she will be treating him. But Kamito takes this as a chance and makes a run for it. After getting free from her, he walks his way through the corridor and reaches the headmistress's office. As he tries to open the door, he hears a girl complaining about not accepting the admission of a man to the Maiden Academy from the inside. Just then, the door slams open on his face, knocking him back on the ground, as a blue-haired girl jumps over him with her sword and threatens to turn him into marinated salmon. The headmistress calls out to her from behind and tells her to put her sword away, revealing her name to be Ellis. She then greets Kamito, who returns by calling her an old hag and a witch. She then walks inside the office with him and has Ellis stand on guard. Inside, she tells him that Ellis is the captain of the Sylphid Knights, which is a group assigned to keep order at the school. She then asks him about the spirit seal on his hand and he says that it just kind of happened before she asks if he was finally able to part ways with his ghost. Kamito becomes angry and says that she is not a ghost and then asks her about the contents of the invitation. It turns out Kamito used to have a spirit named Rishta which broke off from him. Greyworth confirms that she is alive and that she will tell him more about her whereabouts if he agrees to join her academy as a student. After that, Ellis gives Kamito a tour of the facility and warns him about never going to the girls' bathroom. She then takes him to his living quarters, which turns out to be a small shack beside the horse stable, and he is told to share the bathroom with the horses. She then tells him that he will be joining the Raven class, which is notorious for its bunch of problem children. After finishing the tour, Ellis walks away and Kamito runs into Claire, who immediately captures him with her whip. She asks him what he was doing with Ellis and he explains that she was just showing him around as he is now a fellow student of theirs. Claire then brings up the topic of him stealing the sword spirit and says that she wants him to become her spirit now. He decides to tease her and says that if she wants that, then she should know the proper way of forming a contract with a humanoid spirit, implying it to be a kiss. He makes her go all red and teary before their professor, Freya, walks up to them and takes Kamito to the classroom for an introduction. There, Kamito gets introduced to a frost elementalist named Rinslet. She fights Claire over the rights to make Kamito her slave and it is a whole drama. But just then a girl wearing a maid uniform runs inside telling Rinslet to calm down or else the professor would get angry, but she ends up tripping and falls down from the stairs, but not before Kamito jumps in to save her and ends up getting rewarded with a close-up view of heaven. Later that night, Kamito thinks back on what Greyworth told him, and it turns out she wants him to participate in the Blade Dance tournament as her academy's representative, and bribes him by saying that the strongest blade dancer, Ren Ashbel, is going to participate this time as well, and the news is that she will be bringing a humanoid darkness spirit, hinting towards it being Rashia. He also reminds himself of the conversation he had with Professor Freya while walking to the class. She told him how the Blade Dance tournament was held in honor of the 5 great elemental spirit lords. The academy trains these girls from high nobility who then represent the country of their choice in the tournament. The winner gets the blessing of the elemental spirit lords, and the country they represent experience a prolonged period of prosperity and divine blessing. She then turns to Kamito and asks him what he was fighting in the tournament for, and he simply says that he was invited by Greyworth to do so. He then asks her about the cafeteria as he's hungry, but decides to go back to his shack without eating after seeing more zeros on the menu than he can count. Later that night, Rinslet walks up to his room and offers him a meal in exchange for barking for her and becoming her loyal servant. He closes the door on her and tells her to try Reddit. She then knocks again and says she will give it to him if he just licks her feet and obeys all her orders, but he tells her that the wrong subreddit and shuts the door again. She then walks in again and just leaves the food on the table, saying the maid made extra anyway so he can have it. As she leaves, Kamito says that he doesn't know about all those things, but he won't mind being her friend, which makes her blush. Just then, Claire walks into them with a boatload of pet food, and it turns out she had the same idea of feeding him, just not the right way. She looks at Rinslet and starts arguing to her about trying to steal her slave. Rinslet doesn't like that and responds by summoning her ice elemental spirit, Fenrir. Claire calls her fire cat out and they both start fighting with each other. During their fight, Kamito's shack catches up on fire and Rinslet stops it by shooting a freezing arrow at it and putting it out alongside the shack itself. Claire tells her that she still has no control over her power, and Rinslet argues back, but just then Ellis arrives on the scene alongside her knights. She asks about the broken shack that she worked so hard to make herself and tells the girls that they will be notified of their punishment later. Meanwhile, the other knights taunt Rinslet for trying to make a move on the new student as soon as she saw that he was a guy. They then tell Claire that she isn't even a noble and her elder sister is just a betrayer. This makes them both angry and they challenge Ellis and the others to a duel by calling them cowards. Ellis says that she won't stand this and tells Kamito to join in because he doesn't have any human rights anyways, and also so they can have a 3 versus 3 battle. After that, Claire takes Kamito to her room to spend the night as she is the one responsible for him not having his anymore. But we all know it's Kamito's insane Riz pheromones that entice her to do so. She then goes to the bathroom to take a shower while telling Kamito to clean the room up. Scarlet also helps him and he gets onto kitchen duty after cleaning the place up. Suddenly, he hears Claire's scream and finds out that the water spirit in the shower started acting up for some reason and attacked her. Kamito uses his Riz magic to calm the spirit down and saves Claire, only to have his ass torched as she burns him down for seeing her naked. After that, they get to their dinner and Kamito asks Claire about her obsession with getting a strong spirit. She says that she wants to meet someone close to her and then shows him a locket with the crest of the Elstein noble family. The family was renowned for their strong fire spirit elementalists, but it all ended 4 years ago when the eldest daughter of the Duke, Rubia, caused a great catastrophe in the Ordesia Empire and ran away. She was then given the title of the Calamity Queen, and Claire happens to be her younger sister. Kamito wonders how he has been trying to meet someone important to him for the last 3 years as well and thinks that perhaps they ain't really that different. After that, they walk up to the Astral Gate on the school grounds, which connects the realm of the demons and spirits, Astral Zero, to the human world. If someone gets injured here, their body suffers minimal injuries, but their mind can still be damaged. This specific gate connects to a place with low-level spirits, so they often use this place to train and settle conflicts. While walking to the battle arena, Claire talks about Ren Ashbel and how she inspired her to become a better blade dancer through her performance, and how she owes her as it was her performance that calmed the enraged elemental lords and stopped the destruction caused by her sister. After that, they reach the arena with Rinslet and her maid waiting for them. She tells them about the water spirit incident, and Kamito notes that it was an issue that happened specifically to Claire and wasn't a problem with the spirit device. Just then, Ellis and the others arrive on the scene and start their duel. Ellis summons her wind demon spirit, Simorg. It starts attacking Kamito and keeps him running like a loser. Claire and Rinslet help him out from the rear and give him a chance to summon his newly contracted spirit in its weapon form. But the spirit comes out as a small dagger instead of the sword that they saw earlier. The other knights also join in, but the girls keep them away from Kamito. Rinslet deals with the Earth Hammer girl but gets taken out by Ellis's bird. Claire fights the Ice Sword girl as Kamito rushes towards Ellis. He throws the dagger at her, but it ends up falling on the ground and breaking apart. Ellis laughs at his small size and turns her spirit into a long weapon. Camito looks at her form and makes her blush by calling her beautiful. She strikes back with a wind blade and goes in for the final hit, but Camito stops her and tells her that something is wrong while pointing at the massive dark cloud behind them. They all turn around and look at it as a high-level demon spirit comes out of it. Camito wonders what a high-level demon spirit is doing there in the low-level area, and wonders if this was in any way linked to that water spirit attack on Claire. Claire, on the other hand, sees this as a chance to make a contract with a strong spirit, and decides to fight it on her own. Ellis helps her a bit and Claire launches a barrage of fire attacks using Scarlet. But the demon spirit proves to be too strong for her and it decides to make mincemeat out of her for dinner. Having been backed off into a corner, Claire starts crying and asks for help from her sister while weeping. The demon spirit attacks her, but Scarlet jumps in and strikes it away, only to be eaten by it instead. Claire loses her mind after seeing this and starts crying more. Seeing this, Camito decides to step in and uses his power to call out to the spirit of the sword once again, and this time tells it to show her true form and begs her to lend him her true power. The spirit answers his call, and with this Camito sweeps in with the big holy sword and cuts the demon in half, while claiming that he won't lose to such a pathetic spirit as he is the strongest blade dancer there is, Ren Ashbel. After the battle, Claire walks up to him and asks him why he didn't save Scarlet, but then accepts that it's all because she was powerless and weak and cries to herself. On the other hand, Camito falls unconscious as the sword spirit sucked too much of his juice, strength. While asleep, he dreams about his childhood and how he was named the successor of the Demon Lord by a shady group when he first met Rishia. Just then, he wakes up and wonders where Claire is. But then he finds something moving under his sheets and he's sure as hell that it isn't him doing all that. It turns out, there is a girl in there and she happens to be the true form of his sword spirit, EST. It turns out Rinslet brought him to her room after he fainted. She walks in to check up on him and mistakes Est's presence as him trying to make a move on a girl. She calls Fenrir and orders it to attack him, but EST tells the ice puppy to sit down and pats it. On the other hand, Claire is down in the dumps over the loss of her spirit and decides to walk out in search of power. Camito gets up to check on her with EST, but he can't find her in her room. He then walks around the campus looking for her, and Ellis points her sword at him for picking up a girl. EST bends her sword and they all sit down, and Camito clears the confusion regarding his spirit's humanoid form. He then asks Ellis about any clues regarding where Claire might be, and she tells him about a contracting ceremony happening in the town where academy students get to form contracts with military spirits. The rumor has it that they have a strong spirit called Glacia to form a contract with this time around. Camito also finds out that they do blade dance to decide who gets to form a contract with the spirit, and thinks that participating without having a spirit of her own would be a really dumb idea for Claire. He then asks Ellis about the location of the ceremony and makes a run for it with EST. Meanwhile, Claire runs into a shady-looking person who offers her a strong-looking spirit. She forgets about what her mom told her about not accepting any spirits from strangers and accepts it and ends up becoming the owner of the mad spirit, Jespenst. On his way towards the ceremony arena, he thinks back on what Claire told him about being the younger sister of the Calamity Queen. He remembers that Rubia was one of the strongest flame spirit elementalists in the Ordasia Empire. But one day, she stole the strongest flame spirit, Levatine, from the spirit shrine and ran away. This act enraged the Fire Spirit King and he started destroying the whole empire with his flames, and that's why people gave her this title. He remembers that Claire wishes to be strong so she can confront her sister and says that he's worried she might do something stupid. On the other hand, Claire is busy doing the exact same stupid thing that Camito was worried about by participating in the tournament without any spirit. She fights through her weak-ass flame magic and a normal whip against a fleet of giant spirit monsters and blade dancers in a battle royal. As expected, she has her ass handed over to her due to the power gap, and once she becomes weak enough, the mad spirit takes over her and starts leeching out her divine power forcefully. It manifests itself in the form of a fierce cat demon and emits an aura that corrupts all the other spirit demons in the area. The corrupted spirits start attacking everyone in their sights, including their owners, and cause chaos. Just then, Camito arrives on the scene and wonders if Claire is responsible for all this. He then asks EST for help with dispelling the curse, but she says that she can't access her real body due to Camito's damaged contract seal. He realizes that this is because of his other contract with Rishia and says that he will manage himself. He then turns EST into her sword form and jumps in towards the mad spirit. He slashes it and realizes that it's actually Scarlet mixed with the mad spirit and tells Claire about it. He says that she didn't die but instead just lost her spirit energy during the battle last time. This gives Claire some hope and she says that she will take care of this situation and summons a flame with her magic. Camito wonders what she's going to do with that pesky flame against this giant monster, but she surprises him by attacking her own hand with Scarlet's seal and makes her return to normal. Once she returns to normal, the other spirits also calm down and return to the spirit realm. After this whole incident, Camito turns towards Claire and asks her how she managed to get her hands on the mad spirit. She tells him that she got him from a girl with dark hair, and just then we see a black-haired girl fly down and in front of Camito. It turns out she is Rishia, and she's the one who has been causing all these incidents around Camito lately, from the water spirit that attacked Claire to the high-level demon spirit that appeared during the duel to even now with the mad spirit. Camito asks her why she was doing this, but she says that she has waited 3 years for him and that this is what he actually wanted. She then awakens the strongest spirit in the arena, Glacia, with her maddening magic and flies off while totally not showing Camito a scene from the heavens. Camito is understandably in a daze after witnessing all this, but Claire pulls him back to reality as Glacia breaks out of its confinement and starts rampaging in the arena. Claire pulls back with Camito and takes him to safety and asks him about the dark-haired girl. Camito tells her that she used to be his contracted spirit and that it's all his fault that she has now become someone like this. Claire looks at him and says that it doesn't matter right now, but he is her contracted spirit, so he should focus on helping her out with defeating Glacia. Camito says okay, but still feels worried, so Claire pulls him back to reality by kissing him out of the blue and says that this is a one-time thing. This works almost too well as Camito lets out the Sanji within him and starts focusing on ways to impress her. Claire says that they can't wait for the academy to send help as the spirit would get to the town first and start attacking normal people. Camito agrees and rushes straight towards the giant with his sword and says that he will show her the real power of Ren Ashbel. Claire stays back on support duty as Scarlet is still weak and they manage to defeat the spirit. While doing so, Camito slashes its feet, making it fall down before doing a fancy jump over his head and stabbing its eye. This reminds Claire of her idol, Ren Ashbel's moves from the blade dance 3 years ago, and she becomes amazed. However, Camito is still pretty rusty and the spirit manages to get up for a punch, but Claire stops it and lets Camito finish it off with a straight slash down the center, splitting it in half, just like he did as Ren Ashbel years ago. Once again, Claire wonders if he's the real deal, but when he looks at him, she finds him lying on the ground unconscious, just like during the duel fight last time. Sometime later, Camito wakes up in his bed, once again with ESD under his sheets. Claire walks in on them and points her weapon at him and tells ESD that he is her slave, so by extension she is hers as well. Rinslet, her maid, and Ellis also come by to check up on him, and it all ends in them standing over Camito's bed, ready to beat his ass up because they can't stand him being in bed with a girl just because she is his contracted spirit. On the other hand, we see a purple-haired girl riding towards the academy in her coach, and it seems she is here for the real Ren Ashbel. It turns out this young girl knows about Ren Ashbel's true identity as Camito. When she was little, she once got stranded while being chased by a demon spirit. She tried to defend herself by calling her spirit, but it didn't work and things looked pretty bad. But just then, with his rising magic, Camito arrived on the scene with a dark blade and cut through the spirit like a Giga Chad. After seeing his swordsmanship and the dark blade he was carrying, she realized that he was actually Ren Ashbel. Camito made her promise to keep it their little secret and then helped her out of the Astral Zero forest by carrying her over his back as she had lost her shoes. We also find out that the dark blade was in fact Rishia in her weapon form. The girl asks him about why he dressed up as a girl and participated in the blade dance, and he says that it was because he had a wish he wanted to come true. He then drops the girl off by the astral gate and they make a promise to meet each other once again after the blade dance is over. Now years later, she is there to fulfill that promise. Meanwhile, we see Camito getting up from his nap and getting his ass roasted by Claire, and Scarlet due to ESD and her usual hiding under his sheets shenanigans. It has already been over a week since the fight with the corrupted spirit, and Camito thinks that he will be able to finally go all out in team practice today. They make their way to the training grounds and meet up with Professor Freya. She tells them that they will be practicing for the chance to participate in the blade dance 2 months from now. All teams would compete and only the top 3 would get in. There seems to be another problem for our couple though. To participate in a blade dance, you need to have a team of 5 people and they don't have anyone else on theirs. Claire says that they would be enough anyways and would make up the numbers with some side characters, but she forgets that Camito is the protagonist and that she is one of those side characters herself. The team battle starts and as expected, they both get their asses handed over to them by the opposing team. They still manage to beat them up in terms of raw firepower, but the lack of teammates makes them lose to their opponent's strategy to stall out for a powerful summoning spell that causes all the animals in the surrounding forest to march over them with no mercy. After this, their school ranking takes a good hit and Claire whines about them being cowards for stalling the fight like that. They discuss the matter over lunch and wonder how they are gonna make up their numbers. Just then, Rinslet walks by and joins them for lunch alongside her maid, Carol. She hints towards wanting to join their team as she was having trouble with forming one of her own due to her high expectations from her teammates. Kamito catches on to this with Carol's help and nudges Claire on to make an offer. Claire does it, but as expected, they start having a fight over the leadership of the team. They also talk about there being a new transfer student at the academy who happens to wield the holy attribute. Claire wonders if they should try inviting her to join their team as well. Just then, Ellis walks by and asks Kamito to join her team. Kamito considers it for a second as it would help him land directly into the blade dance, but then decides against it as Claire insists that he is her spirit and must not leave her, while handing on to him showing her abandonment issues. Kamito realizes this and declines the offer respectfully. Ellis respects that and walks away after telling him that the headmistress was calling for him in her office. Later that day, Kamito goes to the office to see what Greyworth had to say. She says that he sure took his time, and Kamito replies by saying that once he knew it was her who called for him, he had to make sure to take his sweet time, annoying her. She fights back by saying that he has certainly changed a lot from when he was a young little boy under her care, like getting much weaker, referring to his utter defeat in the practice battle in the morning. He says that he is aware of it, but it is what it is. She then tells him that he should learn when to give up on someone, referring to Rysta. This makes Kamito angry and he asks if that's all what she called him there for, but she says that she wanted to introduce someone to him. She then calls in the new purple-haired transfer student and introduces her as the second princess of the Ordasia Empire, Fiona. The girl looks at Kamito and confirms that he doesn't remember her. This surprises Kamito, and Greyworth makes it even more surprising by saying that she wants him and his team to be her bodyguards until her stay at the academy. Meanwhile, we see Rashia meet up with a shady-looking guy named Gio. She makes a deal with him about stealing the sealed documents from the academy. Gio says that he isn't really interested in what she's up to, but he will do it to prove that he is the rightful successor of the Demon Lord, unlike Kamito. Back in the office, Kamito accepts the mission to be Fiona's bodyguard on the condition that it will help improve his ranking to participate in the Blade Dance. Greyworth also gives him and his team a mission to go to the mining city to find out why the place was experiencing long earthquakes recently. Kamito says that the city was known for its spirit stone mines, but it has been a ghost town for age now. Greyworth says that it's true, but they have a good guess as to what the cause may be, and reveals that a strong military spirit was sealed there long ago, and they fear that it might break free. They want Kamito and his team to go there to see if the seal is intact, and Fiona will restore it with her blade dance if need be. We also find out that Fiona is called the Lost Queen and has been abandoned by the royal family completely. This all happened when 3 years ago Claire's elder sister, Rubia, caused the fire incident, and Fiona stepped up to be her replacement in hopes of calming the anger of the fire elemental spirit king. However, why she volunteered to do all that is still unknown. Fiona also tells Kamito that she knows about his true identity as Ren Ashbel, and then pouts that he still doesn't remember who she is. After that, Kamito and Fiona go to Claire's room and inform her about everything. She doesn't seem too happy about the idea, especially after learning that Fiona will be staying with them in Claire's room as she needs Kamito to be beside her 24/7. Fiona then notices how Claire is super close to Kamito and asks her about their relationship. She says that he is her slave spirit and they even formed a contract by kissing each other. This makes Fiona really mad and she challenges Clary to a duel over the rights to Kamito's ownership. As usual, the dude has zero human rights and gets thrown around as property. They end up deciding upon a cooking competition, and it turns out both of them are just as bad. Claire serves them up with burnt charcoal, while Fiona manages to poison them with her special mix of BS cookery. Meanwhile, we see Gio infiltrating the academy's library and stealing the sealed documents. But he encounters Ellis and her knights on his way out, and it turns into an all-out battle. Being a badass villain, he wipes the floor with all of them and prepares to finish their leader off as well before Kamito and Claire jump in to protect Ellis. The guy turns out to be a male elementalist as well, and he wields more than 4 spirits at once. He also reveals that he knows Kamito and about his secret identity, and they all engage in a battle. He says that he has what he came here for and runs away while Kamito and the others chase after him into the forest. During their battle, he outwits Kamito in terms of swordsmanship and overwhelms him with his multiple spirit weapons. He also reveals that the previous Demon King, Solomon, wielded over 72 spirits at once, and he is his rightful successor, and prepares to push him back. He says that finishing him off here won't prove anything, so he will wait for the right opportunity. But just then Fiona decides to do Fiona things and throws a spirit rock at him as her special move. The thing hurts him like a pebble and does just a little over, annoying him and makes him shoot an energy blast at Fiona, who's shivering from fear. It looks like this is the end for her, but Kamito, being the simp he is, decides to jump in between and takes the hit for her. He hurts his shoulder and Claire rushes to him to ask if he is fine, but then they both turn around and find out that Fiona has collapsed. Meanwhile, Gio takes his leave and goes back to Riscia. The next morning, Fiona wakes up in her bed and Camito comes to check up on her. He sits down beside her and says that he has something important to talk with her about, but Fiona cuts him off when she notices Claire spying on them. Once noticed, Claire walks in and says that she wants in on the scoop as well, but Camito says that it's personal and runs away with Fiona in his arms. Claire tries to follow them, but Camito loses her fast. She then runs into Rinslet and starts talking to her about ways to grow prettier as a girl. On the other hand, Camito walks around with Fiona through the forest and asks her about how she knows of his true identity. She smiles and gives him some hints and finally makes him remember her as the girl he saved all those years ago. He then asks her how she found him and she says that she used her network to get some information on him after his name got spread around when he stopped the Berserk military spirit. She then says that she wants his help and reveals that her goal is to have him join her team in the Blade Dance so she can win and prove that she is not useless. She says that she lost everything when she became the Lost Queen and wants to regain her honor and prove to everyone that she is also worth something. Camito agrees, which surprises her, and she asks him why he is willing to help her even though she is just trying to use him for her own cause. He says that he doesn't have any human rights and everyone is always using him anyway, including Greyworth, Claire and Rinslet, so he doesn't mind having another pretty girl trying to use him. This makes them both laugh as they remember Claire and form a team. Meanwhile, Rinslet makes a deal with Claire to let her join her team for the Blade Dance and their mission so she could be closer to Camito, and in exchange she would tell her secret beauty growing secrets. On the other hand, Camito and Fiona run into Ellis and her knights. She tells them that they are headed towards the mining town to capture the culprit from last night and retrieve the documents he stole. She then reveals that the documents contained important information about the military spirit named Jormungand sealed in the mining town. Camito offers her to join his team to go together, but she says that the knights would go separately as it is their job to deal with it. After that, Camito and Fiona meet up with Claire and Rinslet and they all prepare to head towards the mining town on horses. Fiona doesn't know how to ride one, so being the Sakura of this show, she calls out to Camito and lets him carry her like I carry trash during my promotion matchups. They eventually arrive in the abandoned town by night and Clary tells Fiona to stop clinging to Camito like a koala bear and to summon her spirit as the enemy could be hiding anywhere here. Fiona says that the guardian spirit of the royal family can't be summoned just casually like this, unlike her little cat, and continues to walk with Camito. While walking through the mine, Fiona notices a fake Blade Dance shrine which was recently used for an unbinding ceremony, and they wonder who performed it. Just then, they hear a big blast and they rush towards it only to find Ellis and her group getting their asses kicked at the hands of Gio once again. He seems to have a mirror spirit that reflects attacks and uses it to defeat Ellis easily. Just then, Camito and the others arrive on the scene. Gio looks at them and uses one of his spirits to fill the area with poisonous gas while protecting himself with a wind barrier. Ellis decides to be useful for once and blows Gio's poisonous fart away with her wind spirit, giving Claire and Camito time to launch a counter-attack on Gio. They all then cover for Ellis and Camito rushes in to fight Gio with his sword. He then surprises him by cutting through Gio's blade one after another as he summons more and more spirits to defend against ESD. But the overwhelming number of spirits under his control prove to be too much for Camito, and it starts tiring him out. Claire and Rinslet try to help him, but Gio puts them back in place but forgets that he doesn't have a spirit that can create a kitchen. Camito tries to fight against, but ESD says that his sword is small as he has used too much of his divine power. Gio taunts Camito and says that he is no longer the strongest blade dancer and he will show him why before jumping and launching an attack towards his friends. Camito decides to save them by tanking the hit like a Giga Chat. Gio walks up to him and says that he has started bothering himself with ideas like having friends and protecting others, and that's why he has become so pathetically weak now. He then says that it's time to finish it all and prepares to summon his strongest spirit that Riscia gave him. It looks bad for our heroes, but then Fiona decides to be useful and reveals that she had been hiding a bloodstone that allows her to temporarily use the power of a spirit king. She summons a beam of light that not only destroys Gio's spirit, but also sends him flying with a lot of damage. With his spirit gone, Gio makes a strategic escape while Camito and the others get back on their feet. They all do a checkup on each other and it turns out that Ellis and her knights alongside Rinslet are all not in fighting condition. They decide to stay back, while Camito and the rest go on to stop Gio from unsealing the military spirit as well as having Fiona do the resealing blade dance. They also ask Fiona about the bloodstone and she reveals that 4 years ago, she lost her guardian spirit during the Calamity Queen incident, and that is also why she was abandoned by the royal family and lost her right to ascending the throne. Claire asks her about the reason she came to the academy and she teases her by saying that she came there to kiss Camito. But that aside, she actually wanted to win Blade Dance and reclaim her honor and position. And to do that, she joined their team as she thought that the only male elementalist in the academy and the younger sister of the Calamity Queen would be the only people who won't worry about someone like her without a spirit joining their team. She then asks them about their decision regarding letting her be a part of them, and Claire replies that she is now her friend and so they will accept Air with open arms. But first, they need to deal with the spirit that's sealed here. To make it all happen, they need to first find the location of the real spirit temple and worry that Gio will get to it first with the help of the documents he stole. But Ellis reassures them that all the documents in the academy are coded, so he won't be able to get any information out of those documents anyways. Just then, EST speaks up and says that she used to come here many thousands of years ago before she was sealed in the Sword Shrine, and might know the location of the real temple. She then leads them all to the entrance of the real spirit temple in the mines and opens the door to the spirit fountain, which has the seals of all the elemental spirit kings. She mentions the spirit of darkness, Ren Ashdal, and it intrigues Kamito as her name sounds awfully like his other identity as well as Rishia's last name. He tries to ask about it from EST, but she moves the subject along as they need to perform the resealing blade dance quickly. Claire joins the purification ceremony alongside Fiona, and they have Kamito stand guard at the gate outside. On the other hand, Gio runs into Rishia and damns Fiona for destroying his spirit. Rishia says that he is just weak and that's why he is losing to the real successor of the Demon King, Kamito, but he says that it's all her fault for giving him a weak spirit and then asks her to take him to the real temple so he can defeat Kamito once and for all. Meanwhile, Kamito wonders about Gio while waiting outside the temple's gate and thinks that in reality he isn't a Demon King at all. Just then, Gio appears on the scene and they both start engaging in a battle. Kamito pushes him back by immediately breaking his sword spirit and then pushing him on the ground to give him some old school beating. But Gio pushes him back with his wind spirit and they both start using Talk no Jutsu, BS flaming to taunt and berate each other. Kamito reveals that Gio is just a failure who can only control one spirit and all the other spirits he has are a one-time use crystals just like Fiona. This pisses Gio off and he lashes back by saying that it doesn't matter and reveals his trump card, which happens to be a bloodstone with the power of a strong darkness spirit that weakens EST, and he manages to stab Kamito. He then stands over him acting all high and mighty thinking that he has won, but Kamito says that his battle was never against just him and reveals Claire and Fiona, who are about to turn Gio's life upside down with their attacks. Claire binds him with her whip and Fiona uses Blade Dance, which makes all the spirits residing within Gio to reach in response, and it bloodbends the BS out of him. With Gio defeated, Kamito says that he will tell them everything about the military spirit and why he tried to unseal it, but just then Rishia spawns in and says that it was her will to do so. She then talks to Gio and calls him weak and useless for not being able to defeat Kamito in his weak and unawakened state, and says that he was a fake failure after all. Gio says that if he had stronger spirits he would be able to defeat him, and this gives Rishia the idea to let him use her to fight Kamito in hopes of him reawakening as the Demon Lord's true successor. Seeing his old spirit be used by Gio, Kamito becomes really sad and angry and he rushes in to attack him. But Gio responds by shooting a black lightning attack at the defenseless Fiona, prompting Kamito to jump in between and take it for her. Seeing Kamito suffer for her again makes Fiona really emotional, and she calls upon her old spirit and begs it to respond to the contract that they once shared and has it protect Kamito. The spirit heeds her call and launches a counterattack at Gio. Claire joins in as well, giving Kamito a chance to strike back, and they manage to defeat Gio. The next day, we see Kamito waking up in his bed and wondering why Rishia was doing all this. Fiona wakes up beside him and explains that she was helping him restore his divine energy. It turns out they handed Gio over to the military, and with the resealing of the military spirit, their mission was over. A few days later, Kamito wakes up and thanks the gods for not having any of the girls ambushing him this time. He then walks out only to see Fiona and Claire making some chocolate for the rip-off Valentine's Day and mixing illegal things in it to make Kamito fall for them. After all the fun and games, Kamito and his team including Claire and Fiona go out for their next training match for the Blade Dance tournament. Claire takes the charge and says that she will deal with the three girls on the front while Kamito and Fiona go into the forest to defeat the other two members. In the forest, Kamito gets ambushed by one of the girls who uses a musical instrument to launch wind blades at him and another who amplifies and reflects them back using her mirror spirit. He takes some damage from them, but being the previous strongest blade dancer, he manages to outwit them by throwing EST in her dagger form at the wind blade girl, and then defeating the other one with her sword form. He then walks back to the main ground where Claire is just about to finish the last of them. She deals with the stone spirit using her whip, but then one of the girls with the water spirit manages to capture Fiona. The spirits start doing tentacle things to her, but she summons her guardian spirit and defeats it easily. With this match, their ranking improves and they wonder if they will be put up against Ellis' team next, as they are ranked 3rd. But as two of the girls on that team are still recovering, They wonder if they would be put up against the rank 2 or 1 teams, and Claire says that she would like to avoid fighting the rank 1 team due to the Academy's top blade dancer, Valseria, who is a knight with the title of the strongest fortress. After that, they meet up with Rinslet and spend the rest of the day walking around the town, which is being decorated for the Valentine's festival the next day. Kamito also finds out that it's Claire's birthday on that day and decides to buy a cat necklace for her when he catches her looking at it in the shopping district. Meanwhile, another trouble seems to be brewing in the town as assassins and shady merchants enter the town, and Greyworth is notified that they might be there to sell illegal cursed seals to the students. That morning, Kamito also met Ellis while taking an extra class to make up for his attendance. While doing so, he helped her with her studies and she asked him if he would be willing to help her with some tuition later on. Kamito agreed, and Ellis took this time to thank him for all the help he provided during the mining town mission. Later that noon, Kamito meets up with her again for tuition and she tells him that she wants him to come to her room as that's where she studies the best. Kamito is hesitant at the start but agrees to go anyway. When they arrive at her room, Ellis tells him to wait on the couch as she goes inside and changes into a maid uniform. She says that it is a gift for him as she feels bad for burdening him so much lately. Kamito realizes that it must be one of Rinslet's pranks where she tells other girls absurd ways about how to conduct themselves as noble women. He tells her that she doesn't have to do all this, and at the end they settle on her making a meal for him instead. After that, he checks her room out and finds a crystal picture of Ren Ashbel alongside the picture of Valseria. She tells him that Valseria is her elder sister and 3 years ago, she was trying to join the Numbers, which are the top knights of the kingdom, but then she lost her first match against Ren Ashbel during the Blade Dance. She was the previous leader of the Academy's knights before her and was an upright and strict leader with a just heart. But after her defeat, she became cold and power-hungry and her personality had changed completely. She then tells him that she would be coming back the next day and she won't be able to invite him to her room again. She says that she wants to prove to her sister that she is a great leader and wants to show her how her current attitude towards seeking power is wrong, and then asks Kamito to join the knights and help her. Kamito says that he owes her as well and accepts his request, and then asks for his salary in advance so he can buy the birthday present for Claire. After that, he goes to Claire and tells her that he spent time with Ellis and joined the knights, and she thinks that Kamito has abandoned her and has broken his promise and kicks him out of her room while crying. The next day, Kamito joins the knights and tries to start his first day there on the right foot, but Valseria decides to steal the spotlight by making an entrance and destroying all the knights there with a single attack. She then takes 4 of them under her and forms Team Valseria for the Blade Dance and asks Kamito to join him as well. He denies her request and says that he is on Team Scarlet, which belongs to Claire. Valseria calls him a fool and says that she will simply destroy him if he tries to stand in her way alongside Ellis, and walks away. After that, Kamito joins Ellis and continues his duties as a knight by dealing with spirit monsters and random street fights in the Academy City. During this time, he encounters Claire and tries to explain himself, but she throws her stuff at him and walks away while being mad at him. Just then, we see a green-haired girl approach 2 knights who hate Claire and offer them cursed seals. She then approaches Claire herself and offers one as well, but she remembers Kamito and pushes her away, saying that she isn't fond of pushy salesmen. Just then, the 2 knights arrive on the scene and it looks like they are being controlled. Suddenly, a dark aura starts coming out of them as they summon their spirits who have grown in power and are now mixed with dark elements. The spirits start rampaging and attacking everything in their sight, starting with Claire. Claire fights back and runs for the city while Kamito and Ellis hear a big blast and encounter one of the cursed seal spirits wreaking havoc in the town. They start fighting it, but it proves to be too hard for them to cut in one strike. Just then, Kamito sees the spirit attacking an innocent child and he jumps in to protect her, but ends up getting severely injured by the spirit. After that, he decides to finish it off and asks for Ellis' help. Their combo attack manages to crack the mirror spirit, but it strikes back, almost taking Kamito down, but Claire stops it with her whip and joins the fight. The other spirit arrives on the scene as well and they start destroying everything. Kamito and the girls decide to charge at them, but just then a strong attack rains down from the sky and decimates everything in the area, including buildings and the spirits. It turns out Valseria is the one who launched that attack, and she once again mocks Ellis for being a weak knight. This makes Kamito angry and he tells her to take her words back and starts charging at her, but she knocks him back with a simple push and walks away. The next evening, Kamito wakes up in his bed all wrapped up in bandages. Claire walks in to check up on him and they both make up after Kamito explains himself and gives her her birthday present. Claire apologies for being harsh on him. Just then, Fiona walks in and announces that they are going to have a blade dance match against Team Valseria the next day. Kamito says that they will need a way to deal with her defenses from afar. Fiona says that they will figure something out, but there's no way he's participating in the battle with his injuries. Just then, Rinslet walks in and says that she has a way of dealing with Valseria's defense from a range, and Kamito requests her to officially join their team. Besides that, Claire goes to Ellis and asks her to join them as well, but she says that she will fight alongside her knights. But then her injured friends walk in and say that they won't be able to recover by the Blade Dance tournament and want her to join Team Scarlet and achieve her dream. With this, Team Scarlet finally gets all its members for the Blade Dance tournament, and they prepare for their match against Valseria. Meanwhile, we find out that Valseria has been dealing with the green-haired merchant who calls herself a researcher, and it turns out Valseria has been using her cursed seals as well. The next day, everyone in the academy gathers around the Astral Gate to see Valseria's team fight against Team Scarlet. Once they arrive at Astral Zero, Claire gives out orders for everyone to take position and search for the enemies, but Valseria arrives on the scene and says that it won't be necessary as she will take care of them all alone, and points her massive guns at them. Her spirit, Dreadnought, is a mecha armor type which grants its user various abilities alongside a strong defense. She shoots at them, but Rinslet counters by firing down all of her blasts with her arrows. She then shoots multiple ice arrows at her joints and freezes the mecha, completely locking it in place. This gives Claire and others enough time to charge up their attacks, and they launch a full power combo attack at her which brings her down to the ground. Valseria compliments them, but then reveals that her spirit is an earth type and that the ground is where it excels. She then charges straight at them like a tank, but Fiona stops her with her guardian spirit. Valseria points her weapon at her, but Claire stops her with her flaming whip and pushes her back with Ellie's help by creating a fire tornado. Valeria says that it's all meaningless in front of her and unleashes a barrage of attacks at them, even defeating Fiona's guardian spirit. It looks like they will end up losing, but Claire uses Talk no Jutsu and raises everyone's morale. She then rushes in and sends Scarlet to distract Valseria while heating her armor up with her fire spirit magic. Valseria says that such a dumb attack won't do anything to her, but Claire jumps back and lets Rinslet attack the same spot with a freezing arrow, and then heating it again with her fire magic. The rapid heating and cooling breaks the iron and does a lot of damage to the spirit. With that, Ellis finishes the job by launching a wind tornado, and they defeat Valseria by breaking her armor. Ellis rushes in to see if her sister is fine, but she gets up and starts losing her mind like the other cursed seal users and emits dark aura and attacks everyone in the area, including her own teammates. She captures everyone and is about to land a lethal blow on Ellis, but Kamito jumps in and cuts her spirit arm off, saving the knight's captain. He then goes full Sasuke mode and cuts all the dark aura arms and saves his teammates before rushing in swiftly and overwhelming Valseria with his slashing attacks and impressing everyone watching. During their fight, Valseria sees an opening as Kamito stops moving to tolerate the pain in his wound and prepares to launch a spear attack. But Fiona goes full Vegeta and shares her power with him and heals Kamito off. With her energy, Kamito dodges her attacks and strikes back. Ellis, Claire and Rinslet decide to fight along as well, and with a team effort they manage to finish her off as Kamito stabs her spirit through its core, destroying the cursed seal in her heart and bringing Valseria back to her senses. With that, Team Scarlet wins the match and gets the right to participate in the Blade Dance from the Academy. On the other hand, we see the green-haired cursed seal seller watching over Valseria's match. She makes a comment about how they broke her toy and that she would like to play with Kamito next time, but Greyworth arrives on the scene and reveals that her name is Vivian. It turns out she is her old student and she calls her a failure. She says that she knew it was her from the seal patterns on the two knights from earlier, and that they matched the ones that she was working on when she was her student. She then says that she won't forgive her for messing with her precious students, and then turns her into not-so-alive sashimi. As she turns around, she realizes Rishia's presence and says that she knew it was all her doing. Rishia says that she won't let her use Kamito either and then vanishes away. On the other hand, our heroes celebrate their victory and Valseria is sent off to recover from her injuries. It looks like she will make a complete recovery thanks to Est's ability to destroy curses. After a sweet celebration with his teammates, they all prepare for the upcoming Blade Dance tournament, and we see all the participants line up on the day of the event as they make their way to the floating island in Astral Zero on a flying ship. And this brings the anime to an end. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe with notifications on so you never miss out on any more of my recaps. Until next time, take care.